I think the other thing that really helps brands that are doing the right thing around this is that you can get a completely different kind of goodwill from people, where consumers, they want your brand to succeed, they want your business to do well, they feel good about spending money on your products. There are brands that I think a lot of us feel like, even if we buy it, we're like very reluctant and we wish we had a better option, but but when there's a business, there's a brand that we think they're doing the right thing, they're doing well, and I like their products, I like their ethos, and you want them to do well, you'll tell your friends about it, you'll talk about it. If you post on social media, you'll talk about it there, you'll want to share it with others. And I think that kind of organic growth can really help.
Okay, it's 6 at my side. So hello and welcome everyone to today's Nutricosmetics 2030 Sustainable Beauty Inside Out live event, where we have 4 amazing conversations about sustainability in our industry planned. We'll discuss everything from rules and regulations around it, how the brands are fighting for a greener future. We'll look into the efforts of the supply chain with the manufacturers and packaging providers. And for the cherry on top, we will also dive deep into material science and look into the truth about what actually is and what might not be as sustainable as we think. So welcome again to Nutricosmetics 2030 Sustainable Beauty Inside Out live event. My name is Matías Batagel. I'm your host for today. A little bit about me. I'm a business strategist currently serving as a marketing advisor and strategist at Tosla Nutricosmetics, as well as the co-host of the just launched Nutricosmetics 2030 show that you can, of course, now find on YouTube and all streaming platforms. So you're welcome to have a look and, of course, reach out with any questions and ideas of what you would want us to discuss on the show more. So feel free to reach out to us. So we are starting today's event with our first conversation, which is titled Rules and Regulations, a look at sustainability claims for edible beauty, where we'll discuss sustainability claims used in Nutricosmetics and the regulations behind them. Basically, we'll talk about how brands are pushing it on the marketing side and how the regulatory side then is there to keep everything in check. So for the first panel, I'm joined here today with 3 amazing experts on the topic. And the first panelist is Jennifer Carlsson, brand expert at Mintoiro. Hi, Jennifer, and welcome.
Hi, great to be here.
Great to have you here. Next, we have Ute Wollenweber, CEO and founder at Carlsson Science. Hello, Ute. Thank you for coming.
Hello, happy to be here as well.
And last but not least, Mojgan Moddaresi, director at Personal Care Regulatory Ltd. Hi, Mojgan. It's great to have you here as well.
Well, hi, everybody. It's lovely to be here.
Great. So a call out to the audience before we start our conversation. If you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to submit any of them throughout the conversation directly in the chat here in Zoom, and we'll take some time towards the end of our panel to answer them. So feel free, just type it in, and our team will take care of it. And give them to me so I can ask them to our amazing guests here. So without further ado, let's get started with our rules and regulations panel. And actually, let's start with you, Jennifer, as a brand expert. And we know that you just finished the Nutricosmetics brand report for 2024. And you focused in a big part also on the sustainability aspects. So I would like to ask you, how do you see sustainability as a part of the branding and marketing mix of the brands? How do they communicate it? Like, do you see a lot of greenwashing, and maybe do you see a trend increasing, or are the scales tipping towards something else already?
Yeah, so for my report, Nutricosmetics Trend Report 2024, which I did a report last year too, so it's been really interesting to see the changes over the last year, having done another deep dive into it now. There are actually a lot of positive things that I saw looking at the Nutricosmetics, how they're performing with sustainability. It's interesting that they're actually overall, I would say they perform better than beauty, like cosmetic products, the cosmetics brands do in general. A way to help kind of look at and categorize products and packaging, I've split them into all plastic packaging, minimal plastic, which would be like a glass bottle but it has a plastic cap, or like a plastic pouch because it's less at least, and plastic free. And splitting them into those categories overall for Nutricosmetics products, and it was about 2,000 products I was looking at. It's about 32% plastic free. This is compared to in cosmetics, it's about 14%. And 44% that are all plastic. Though interestingly, the US performs significantly worse than the other countries, enough to significantly change the percentage. So if we exclude US from the data, it's actually 40% of products that are plastic free and only 35% that are all plastic. I also see less greenwashing than I do generally in cosmetics, I would say. I feel like cosmetics overall have a really, really big greenwashing problem where it's really, really rampant. It's like a huge, huge problem there. I felt more like often brands that weren't really doing well with sustainability, they're mostly using plastic packaging, they're also not claiming to be sustainable brands, which I think is a positive. Like, if you're not going to do the work, then at least don't lie to people. I think, the easiest way to not greenwash is to stop lying about being sustainable, because that's what greenwashing is. I think it's really encouraging to see that there are a lot of brands that are committing to being completely plastic free, that they don't have any products that use plastic. I also see refills being a thing, and I think it's especially appropriate for Nutricosmetics because you generally do take the same, like from the same brand, you'll take the same product for several months. Compared to with cosmetics, where people want to try new products more, you might not use the same moisturizer every month. But if you're taking a Nutricosmetic, you'll want to be taking it consistently. So if you have a subscription and you can get even sometimes a paper pouch to refill a nice bottle you have at home, then I think that's actually a good approach to it. We've also seen a huge increase in brands that have become B Corp certified. It was only a few Nutricosmetics brands a few years ago, but over the last 2 years, it's had a huge increase. I think it was 24 of the brands included in my report that are B Corp certified. There are some criticism around B Corp where the intention for most brands, I'm sure, is positive, but there's also some concerns where some brands could use it in ways to kind of make them seem like they're doing better than they are, as kind of as a shield. But I think overall it's good that a lot of brands are putting more focus in it. So I definitely think it's a trend that's not going away.
Okay, great. So I'm turning to Ute and Mojgan here. And as we see that the trend is continuing and brands are actually trying to be more and more sustainable, how do you see this from the regulatory perspectives? Do we actually have clear rules here? And like, in your experience, how far do you see the brands pushing it? Like also in terms of greenwashing, because we see that like there is actually like decrease in greenwashing. Are there regulations behind it like also help with that?
I don't know. Shall I go? Ute, you will go first.
As you like. So I just wanted to start with the greenwashing, but you can also start. So it's yeah. So I only wanted to confirm that which Jennifer just mentioned, that greenwashing is a huge problem. And regarding the claims, I think finally, and I hope that you will agree, Mojgan, regulation is something strict. So there are regulations, there are rules you have to be in, and therefore something like sustainability, it is not a definition, and that makes the greenwashing so easy. But if you take the regulation seriously, then you can avoid this greenwashing. Or for example, you should avoid these overusing claims like natural plant extracts. So plant extracts are always natural, or something like that. So and I think in the future there will be some new rules which will cover the sustainability, like the natural origin index or the carbon footprint as well. So something like that. But Mojgan, I think you can talk more about that regulation part.
Well, I agree with you, but talking about regulation, as a regulatory expert, I have to say I have problem with the terminology of Nutricosmetics, because based on the regulation, either we have food supplement or either we have a definition of cosmetic. So we cannot have a cosmetic product that kind of resembles food. In terms of the regulation, we have a clear guideline of what you can claim under the food supplement category, and also what you can claim under cosmetic. For cosmetic, in the UK regulation and EU regulation, we have Article 20. There is a defined guideline of about what you cannot say within the Article 20, and it is a proper kind of defined pillars of being fair, truthful, and make sure that you kind of follow all of the main pillars of the correct, claims, and that also includes the, sustainability. In the UK, we have a green claim codes, and also in the EU recently, they have a guideline of what actually, green claim should be. So we have a proper kind of definition of claims about what actually can be claimed in terms of the efficiency, and in terms of the greenwashing, we also have a green claim code. So the other issue here is if the brands kind of adhere to the code, because we have the self-regulatory situation for cosmetic products, perhaps it would be to consumers to kind of be educated and point out the brand and kind of have an informed decision making about the green claims. About food supplement category, claims are very, very strict. So there is a certain claim that we can have for vitamins, supplement, and in terms of the functionality. In terms of the sustainability, again, we follow the same green claim codes that we have in the UK, and also in the EU, we have a green code that it has been published and established. So there is a guideline, there is a regulation. It should be just kind of try not to greenwash and follow the rules.
Yeah. So here, this was actually my next question, because so we have rules which are quite clear, but we see that brands and companies are pushing it quite often. But do we actually have the mechanism to more or less like to punish brands and companies when they go too far, or is this just in the jurisdiction of each country? How does this work?
Well, in terms of the regulation, when we have a regulation in each country, there are authorities that they are kind of in charge to make sure that the regulation is kind of being in place, and of course police the regulation. For example, in the UK, we have Trading Standard Agency. and we have advertising standard agency that they kind of act based on any claims in the EU. Again, in each member of a state, you have kind of, authorities that they look after the regulation and, claims, for example, for cosmetic Article 20, which is about the cosmetic claims under the regulation. In terms of the greenwashing, I think there are standard agencies that they look after, all of those greenwashing. In terms of the food supplement, again, there are authorities in each member of a state that they kind of follow that. The only issue that we may see some kind of divergence from what it has to be is regulation for cosmetic product is self-regulatory. It means the responsible person who placed the product on the market and take on the responsibility is responsible to make sure that claims are properly justified and they are fair and truthful. So if there is any issue, obviously one of the principle of self-regulation is the person who does something against the regulation is responsible. They are being kind of accountable if they are kind of being chased by the authority. Of course, that if they are being chased by authorities is something that we may not, see on the market as we would like it as regulatory expert. But if there are claims, authorities are responsible and accountable to make sure that they follow that. And we see so many of these kind of follow-up, specifically in the UK, under advertising standard agency. There are so many court cases, there are so many claims that they are being upheld, and the brand has to kind of, change the claim, don't advertise, take off the advertise from the media. So there are accountability.
Okay, thank you, Mojgan. I have another question for Ute. So you're working a lot in, you're consulting different companies in the development of their formulations, how they choose their ingredients and other things. How big is the focus on sustainability in your opinion? How big is the demand for like the sustainability practices in this early stage of like formulation development, let's say?
So it's really big. It is increasing, and I think the sustainability will be something like a new standard. So okay, maybe it is because I'm focused on that, and therefore the clients I have there are also focused on that. And that means, for example, to exchange some ingredients which are known to be not as sustainable against other ingredients with a comparable performance. But it also means, for example, short transportation ways. For example, sustainability is not only the natural origin of a product, but it is also the geographical origin. So if there is a client here from Europe, I suggest to take an ingredient which is also based here in Europe and which is not shipped all over the world. So that is very important as well.
So you really try to start from like when you look at sustainability, you really look at like holistically and not just like, yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Jennifer, you're also advising, you're talking to a lot of brands and consult them on brand sustainability and how might they be greenwashing. So in the light of the conversation so far, what would you advise to brands how to approach sustainability in a way that's going to work both from the business and the environmental perspective as well? So what do you think is the future, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like Ute is saying, that it will become the standard to have these better practices. I think also as people start to personally experience more of the effects of climate change, I also think that will really push the demand for more sustainable products and for brands to do better. As far as avoiding greenwashing, like I said earlier, greenwashing is lying about being sustainable. So the first thing to do is to stop lying about it, and then you can try to be more sustainable. I think in general, like if you can avoid plastic packaging, that is always good. You'll get people in the industry that try to push you towards plastic. There's a lot of disinformation about it going around because there's financial interests in pushing plastic. Sadly, I think it's good to be aware, and your sustainability expert should not be your manufacturer or packaging producer. You should probably get somebody who isn't incentivized to sell you certain products. With how to sustain that in a business perspective, like to actually have things go around and to make your money on it, I think one encouraging stat that I've seen is that on average, people are willing to pay a 24% premium for more sustainable products. So they're willing to pay 24% more. And I think if the cost of being sustainable is 24% more to the brand, then, you know, the cost is also, if consumers are willing to pay that, then that can offset it a lot. And I think that's important. That's also why the other thing that happens when you're actually being honest about the sustainability of your brand, like if you tell people that your brand is already sustainable, then the conversation stops. But if you tell them, we choose plastic packaging because we wanted to offer our products at a more affordable price point, maybe then your consumers will tell you, we would actually pay more, you know, but you can't have that conversation, and consumers can't make informed choices if we're not being honest with them. I think the other thing that really helps brands that are doing the right thing around this is that you can get a completely different kind of goodwill from people, where consumers, they want your brand to succeed, they want your business to do well, they feel good about spending money on your products. There are brands that I think a lot of us feel like, even if we buy it, we're like very reluctant and we wish we had a better option, but you know, but when there's a business, there's a brand that we think they're doing the right thing, they're doing well, like, and I like their products, I like their ethos, and you want them to do well, you'll tell your friends about it, you'll, you know, talk about it. If you post on social media, you'll talk about it there, you'll want to share it with others. And I think that kind of organic growth can really help. I also see a lot of brands that I talk to that are more like the plastic-free type, that are like really committed to those practices. I also see them having a much lower customer acquisition cost. And I mean, that can be really, really significant, especially for a B2B brand, because the cost to get customers can be completely insane. Like, there are a lot of brands that they can have a huge revenue, but they're not actually making any profit because it costs so much to get consumers. And if sustainability can be a factor to lower that, because you get the goodwill from people who like your product and feel good about spending money on it, and you want to tell other people, I think that can be really significant. And I think that effect will only grow in the future.
Yeah. So here you touched one very interesting point, and we'll talk more about that in the next panel with actual brands. But what's really interesting to me is like this customer acquisition cost lowering with using sustainability as one of the, like, let's say, important value propositions. So do you see this like as kind of like, let's say, using sustainability also in this kind of perspective to kind of like future-proof your brand?
Definitely. I mean, the brands that I've seen this from, they have really good products and they're plastic free. And I think that's the best approach to take, where you're making sure that the consumer don't feel like they're compromising by using your products. Like, they don't feel like, oh, I'm getting something worse. Like the branding is just as spot on. Like the products are great. I always mention Dip Sustainable Hair Care is a great example because it's such a cool brand. They spend nothing. Everything is organic, and I know that they're doing well because I've talked to the founder behind it, and they just have a really good product. People love it. People love the brand. It's plastic free. And they get so many people just talking about them because they're so excited about the brand. So I definitely think that is a good like a huge factor. But I don't think it's enough to just be sustainable and push that as the main thing. You have to have a good, exciting product and be sustainable. Then I think it can be a winning thing.
Yeah, it's maybe more of a like it's gonna become more of a cost of entry, let's say, in the future. But here I would like to turn back to our a little bit more into like our original topic, which is regulatory landscape. And here I'm turning again to Ute and Mojgan, and I would like to see your perspective on how do you think the regulatory landscape will have to evolve in terms of increasing the need for sustainability? How do you think it should evolve in terms of like keeping the objectivity and transparency and things like that?
Well, at the moment, we have a certain kind of, checklist and, code for the green claims. For example, when somebody, claims about eco-friendly, green, or sustainable, they have to make sure that this claim reflects the whole life cycle of the brand, product, and the business. So it's not just about, for example, ingredient X is eco-friendly or sustainable or recyclable from, for example, coffee. It is about the whole sustainability from cradle to cradle type of, cycle. I think what would be very important is, to have accountability and to kind of, perhaps authority spend more money to police the industry and make sure that we don't have the issue with, too much of greenwashing, and of course, educating, consumers. Bear in mind that now sustainability is a hot topic. A couple of years ago, for older audiences like me, we had green and we had natural and organic as a claim, that they both didn't have any specific regulatory definition. But down the line, we have this ISO for kind of the natural origin. One of the services that we do, for example, nowadays is make sure that we create a percentage of natural origin based on the ISO guideline. Perhaps down the line, if we have any ISO guideline for a very crowded claims of green claims, perhaps something that it may come and it may kind of create a little bit of harmonizing green claims in the industry.
Okay. Yes, I totally agree. Yes, so you have to be aware regarding the sustainability claim, and sure, if you have, for example, upcycling products, they have to be covered by the regulation as well. So that is another challenge sometimes, because sure, you have to deep dive into all the trace elements or something like that, which are in there. So but sure, you have to do the same safety assessments as with synthetic products. So it's only one more thing which have to be covered regarding checking the sustainability.
Exactly. So I just want to kind of, touch on safety that Ute mentioned, because it doesn't matter if your product is sustainable or not sustainable. It doesn't matter if it is organic or 100% natural. The product, the main point of placing a product on the market, before any of those claims, it has to be safe for consumers. That is the highest priority. And we have, in my view, a very good kind of, golden rules for how to prove a product is safe. We have a proper defined regulation, how to do the safety assessment. And I think that is perhaps sometimes being neglected, not being done properly. And that is something that in our company, we have a very kind of obsessive approach about looking at traceability of each ingredient, looking at impurities, making sure that impurities are kind of in line with the regulation, they are safe. So safety, I think, is one of the most important claim that can sell the product foremost of all of these natural and sustainability claims.
Okay, so here my question that arises, because safety is obviously very important. And let's say if you want to have a safe product, like the easiest way would probably be to pack it in a plastic packaging. So is your opinion that maybe safety kind of stands in the way of sustainability sometimes?
I don't believe that, because, you know, in the area that we have so many technologies and materials for sustainable packaging. We even have the brand that, you know, for example, we have a brand that they recycle their packaging, they take the packaging from clients, they kind of wash it. And one of the jobs that we did for them, we kind of validate the safety of the process of washing, rinsing the packaging and reusing the packaging. So it wasn't really, you know, in contrast with safety. It is how to evaluate the process, have the expertise to make sure that sustainable kind of process is safe, especially about kind of, you know, refillable product, because one of the issue about, you know, refillable product is safety is about kind of, you know, basically how long they can be on the shelf, if the, you know, the original packaging can be rinsed off properly, can be clean, there is no contamination, you know, possibility for refilling. So all of those elements are basically elements that you have to consider when you want to create a sustainable brand and, you know, claim something sustainable. And I believe that we have enough innovation to be able to create a sustainable packaging. We have, you know, formulation that they can be, you know, water free. They do the same kind of functionality. So with less packaging. So I believe safety and sustainability, there is no, you know, conflict of interest here.
Okay, and Ute, what is your opinion on this?
Yes, I totally agree, but some issues are still there. For example, the refilling. So there are several brands. They offer packaging to refill the original packaging. And I know that there are some issues in the production because they have to change all the manufacturing process to fill the refilling bottles. So that is, for example, a question: is it more sustainable than, for example, choose a packaging which is produced by recycled material? For example, here you also have to have a material which is safe, so where cannot migrate some chemicals into the formulation. And therefore, I think, like Mojgan just mentioned, the solid cosmetics is in trend. So there you only need something like a cartonnage to pack it, and sure, here you have other issues, like, for example, if you are in the shower, that it will dilute. But there are some challenges, but I think they should be the companies have to work on it, and I think they are still doing it. And if you compare the packaging from now with the packaging 5 years ago, you see a huge improvement. But sure, there's a lot of improvement necessary for the future as well.
Can I add something to that? I think refills can be appropriate when it's appropriate to the format, like with looking at the Nutricosmetics brands. If you have capsules, that's completely different from having a liquid product, right?
Exactly.
Because if you have a jar that you use at home personally yourself, you get that for the first order, and then every month you get a pouch that you can then just put into that jar, then that, I think that's a great way to use. I also see that type of refills for powdered products, where it also travels more easily in a pouch, and you refill your own jar that you can wash, like just as you could wash a glass jar that you have at home, you know. And I think doing refills, this really depends on the format of the product, if it's going to be like a good idea. I don't like a lot of cosmetic products have the pouch, like they have a plastic bottle that you put inside another bottle, and then you change. You know, that doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
And if I can add something to that, it kind of lead to that green checklist that we have for the claims and regulation, that it says that claims should not be exaggerating the positive environmental impact of any kind of action that they do. For example, if they are refillable, they really shouldn't kind of say eco-friendly if the cost of washing and cleansing that refiller is more than it's not as eco-friendly as it should be. So that is a very good point. Not all of the refillable are sustainable. So that exaggeration, the positive environmental impact, truthfulness, again back to Article 20 of the regulation, I think is a very important fact here.
And on this note, I have more or less my last question for all three of you. Do you think that there is a proper, or let's say an objective definition of what sustainable actually means? Because we see there are a lot of different takes on this, a lot of different opinions. We'll hear some of them even today in the next panels. So do you think that we have an objective definition of this, or is it still very subjective? And basically, everyone kind of looks at their own interests in terms of sustainability. What's your opinion on that? And it goes to all three of you.
I think until now, sorry, you can.
I'll go ahead. I always say that I think the right approach to it isn't to just have one definition for sustainability. I think it's to make more specific and more limited claims. If you have really good ethical local sourcing and you source your ingredients locally, don't say you're sustainable, say you source your ingredients locally. Because I think using these overly involved like umbrella terms is a big part of the problem you get with greenwashing, because all kinds of brands that would be on all parts of the spectrum of being sustainable will say they're sustainable. But I think if you instead focus on making very specific claims, like our packaging is plastic free, that's specific, people understand what you're talking about. Or you can say that like the ingredients are locally sourced, great, we use upcycled ingredients, specific, right? I think the same thing goes with like clean beauty and like the issues around that. It's the same problem there. It's very vague. I think the best, my thought is that I don't think there is a way to claim just what is sustainable, like what is it exactly, this is the checklist, and no nuance around it. So that's why I think it's just better to be very specific. I mean, as a general thing, I think if you're using all plastic packaging and it, like especially a big chunk of acrylic, I don't think that's sustainable. I think most people would agree. But overall, I think it's better to focus on making very specific claims.
Perfect. Thank you, Jennifer. Let's continue with Ute. So
Yes,
do you think there is, we are there or not, basically? Yeah.
I think it's a good point. So sustainability is something like an umbrella which covers a lot of things, and so it is better, like Jennifer suggested, to focus on the single things which are sustainable. So, for example, the local sourcing, or the plant-based origin, or the upcycling product, and to show from which part it is upcycled and so on. So that makes sense. But sustainability, it's indeed very vague, and it says all and nothing.
Thank you, Mojgan.
But what I want to actually, point out here is, as part of the European Green Deal, the European Commission has put forward a proposal of eco-design for sustainable products. So there are proposals there. There are kind of, proposal for harmonizing and creating a kind of guideline for what is eco-design, what is, sustainable. But we also have another parallel regulation for cosmetic, which is Article 20, which is about that, full element of fairness, truthful, that it kind of, doesn't matter if it is sustainable or not sustainable. It kind of, it's like an umbrella for all of the claims that you do. So we have plenty of guidelines. The new kind of regulation, the new guideline is coming as part of the, the Green Deal for, European Union. And they have this, kind of regulation proposal for the regulation coming. And we have plenty of restriction recently based on sustainability of ingredient. For example, we have glitters that they are banned. If you have a loose glitter, they are banned. If you have glitter in your makeup, or, in the different types of cosmetic, there is a guideline and the process how they are going to be banned in terms of the, the date. But I think there are plenty of regulation here. We just need to be aware of them and get the right consultation on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and we actually have a great question from the audience, which is like, what would be the one advice you would give to a brand that is just starting in the business? And if I can make a little bit of a recap of what I heard today from you, and then you can comment on that. I would say basically be specific and be transparent about the things that you're doing in terms of sustainability and also other things. Would you say that this is kind of like a good recap or a good advice? Let's go with Jennifer first.
Yeah, I mean, again, I say this all the time. The easiest way to stop greenwashing is to stop lying about being sustainable, right? Because that really is what greenwashing is. It is overstating, like overclaiming your sustainability. So I think if you're being honest and transparent, you're both opening up to you're opening up for yourself to learn also. Because when I see brands that are saying that they're already sustainable, and I look at it and I'm like, that doesn't signal to me that they're very receptive to it. But as a takeaway of what brands should be doing, I think it is, don't get your sustainability advice from somebody that is selling plastic. Conflicts of interest. Talk to other people, talk to experts, get more sources, because there is a lot of intentional disinformation, and not misinformation. I mean intentional disinformation around plastic, and a lot of the LCAs are not really accounting for everything. But I think overall, being honest, be specific, be transparent. That's like the most important thing.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jennifer. And we go with Ute. What would your advice be?
Yeah, the same. So be transparent, to check the origin of the raw materials, to check, for example, also the packaging, to come back to the plastics. So where you can put it, and so, yeah, to check everything and maybe to be consulted by an expert if you have not your own expertise to check all these things. But I think if you are honest and if you are clear and transparent, you are on the right way, and you avoid the sustainability, which is so overused. So I think it is better to be clear and transparent.
Thank you. Then let's finish up with Mojgan.
Well, I want just to some of what other experts kind of mentioned. Be honestly, part of article, 20, truthful, fair, and I just want to emphasize that sustainability is not about one ingredient or one part of the packaging. Sustainability is about the whole cycle of, manufacturing, is about formulation, whole cycle of the cradle to cradle of the products. And I really kind of, my suggestion is make sure that your product is safe, because safety is the first and it can sell. And the claims like sustainability, natural or organics, they all comes after the safety and compliance.
And I think this is a great moment to end our conversation with the first conversation of today's event. Thank you so much for your input, our experts, Jennifer Carlsson, Ute Wollenweber, and Mojgan Moddaresi, for really providing your insights and all the knowledge. I certainly learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to continuing the discussion on sustainability in our upcoming panels. So now we will take a short 5-minute break, everyone. And then when we're back, we're gonna look a bit closer to the brand's perspective on sustainability and how they integrate it into their business models. So see you at 5, so exactly at 7. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having
Bye.
us.